Good afternoon, everybody. We are doing this month's webinar from Quito, and my name is Stephanie Hanson. I'm the Senior English Language Fellow working in Ecuador. And with me today is Edmundo Santacruz, who teaches English in the Universidad Católica in Quito. So Edison has a lot of great ideas about making students write, which is what we decided to have as our topic this month. So welcome, Edison.
Okay.
And we're going to go ahead and start.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, everybody. My name is Edison. I'm an English teacher, and I've worked in different places. I started teaching in primary school, then I moved up to high school, mid-school, high school, and then now I'm teaching at the university level. What I've seen along this journey is that our students, in a sense, have some passive knowledge that they don't know how to handle. So that the idea is to make them produce things. One of those ways to make them produce is by writing or by speaking. They love speaking, we know that, but I guess that when students write, they are more aware of the things they are doing, so they are more careful, and then eventually they improve their English and the way they do things. Okay, so that's why I decided to do this, set up this set of ideas for making them write. And some of them are going to be for beginners, some others are going to be a little bit more elaborate, but most of them are for them to practice their knowledge in different areas. Okay? Sorry. Okay, so we know that in order to produce something, first of all, we need to take something from outside, okay? So that's why we need to have some input. That is the idea of English and any other language. Nobody can produce anything if he or she hasn't received any kind of input. Input in this case is all the materials, all the ideas, all the activities, all the elements that a student receives or a child receives while attending a class. Okay, in this case, or outside a class, everything is input. And then we have readings, we have listening activities, we have the grammar classes and vocabulary practice, anything that comes to the brain of the student. And then after some processing, he retains something. That is the intake. With that intake, with the things that he apprehends, he can later produce something. That could be the output. So the idea is that the student needs to have a lot of resources coming from outside to have a lot of things to deal with. That is the vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and experiences too. And then experiences in English and experiences with their life. And after that, they can transform it into some output.
Okay, so we're going to be focusing, that was the theory, the theoretical background. And now we're going to be focusing on the next hour on how you can make your students output more, how you can make them write more in English. So that's really what we're going to focus on, is giving you ideas for having your students produce more writing. So we have a poll, and we'd like everybody to answer this poll that we have. We would like to know, how often do your students write in class or for homework? How often do you make your students write in class or for homework? So on your computer screen, if you can please type in your answer. Choose one of the answers. Never, once a month, once a week, every day, or almost every day. We just want to get a sense of how common writing assignments are for you. And we'll see the results kind of changing and updating here. Okay. So far, we only have a few people responding. So everybody, please take a minute on your computer to answer the poll.
We want your answers.
thing is nobody said never. So everybody does a little bit of writing. Okay, so it looks like most people are saying once a week or almost every day.
Okay, but what kind of things do you assign as writing?
Well, we'll be getting into that later. I just wanted to start with an idea of how often do people write.
Yeah.
So it looks like every week or multiple times a week, not quite every day. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, so we can go on.
Okay, so we have one activity that at the beginning I like to build a community of learners. That is, that people learn better when they are among friends, when they feel at home in class, right? So they have to, the first activity is my 10 important words. It can be 10 or 8, it depends on you. But in this case, students are to write or to think about the 10 important words, 10 words that are important to them. For example, in my case, these are my own 10 important words, like practice reading, students, Quito, places, things to do, or people too. For example, I love soccer. That's my second passion after reading. And then students can talk about this at the beginning. Then they write the 10 words. They compare with other students, and they discuss if they have some similarities or differences, and they can either write about their own 10 important words, or they can, a friend of them, their partner can write about somebody else's words. Okay, so it can be an exercise in the first person or in the third person. Okay, so the idea is that they talk about it, they have different skills combined, and then eventually they write.
And I like that this is a good getting to know you activity, so this would be good to do in the first day or first week of class.
Yeah.
And I also like that it's combining speaking skills with writing, because if they're working with a partner to share their words, and then later they have to write a paragraph, like you said, they could write about themselves, practicing first person, or they could write about their partner, which is practicing third person, and writing about a newer topic.
And then you can even go further, because then you can ask them to working as a class, and then you can make a collective word, but you can say, meet my class.
Oh, right, and make a huge poster with everybody.
Everybody just, so say, yeah, we have meet my class, and then we have the words from everybody in the class.
And it represents the group.
That represents the group. Great. And also, a variation, you might be seeing this T-shirt over there. Okay, it can be a variation, because sometimes with little kids, if they don't know how to write them, they can draw something on that T-shirt, like a soccer ball or a book or something, and then they can discuss about that. And then maybe instead of a writing activity, with little kids, it can be a speaking activity. So it can be, and then they can color the T-shirt with the colors of their favorite soccer teams or teams of whatever the sport they like.
Great. Okay. Next.
Okay.
I'm having a delay in the screen here. There we
go. Okay. Now, another activity is your first. Okay. As I told you, I teach university students now. That's why maybe you're going to find some questions that are more like for all the people, right? So for example, you have, when was the first time you kissed somebody of the opposite sex? Or okay, somebody may say, I kissed my mom or I kissed my daddy when they were, but it's not the idea, right? It's something, you know what I mean.
A little more interesting.
More interesting things for teenagers okay. And then also, when was the first time you rode a bike, or the first time you smoked, or the first time you did something? Because you can leave space for them to make other questions, to ask other questions. Okay, so I give them like 5 questions or 3 or 5 questions, and they have to come up with other questions from their own. And besides that, they can ask some other questions, follow-up questions. For example, when was the first time you rode a bike? And I say, it was when I was 10 years old. And what color was it? was right? Who gave it to you? Where did you write it for the first time? Who taught you how to write it? Okay, and this, so you have not only one question because the students can, okay, and then you have these ideas in a composition. You make a report of that. Okay, you talk about the other person's answers to those questions, and then, but at the beginning it could be a good idea to start to work with the asking questions things, so they can ask questions in okay, well-made questions, well-formed questions. Okay, so that is the idea. This is for your first, and the students can come up with many fun ideas.
And I think these are motivating prompts that will interest the students and get them wanting to write more. So instead of writing one sentence or two sentences, they can write a paragraph or half of a page. So it's getting them to write more about the experience.
More about experience, and then we're practicing grammar, past tenses, and WH questions, and also all these kind of things. And yeah, you practice these things in affirmative, negative sentences, and then you form a paragraph, or either you can combine that with to make them report, and they can include an image or some illustration to their homework. Right. Okay. No, not like yeah. All right. Now, if you have your first, maybe eventually I'm going to have your last, and you can use the same questions, or you can come up with some other question, like when was the last time you got angry at someone? When was the last time you cooked? Or and then when was the last time you fell in love? When was the last time you swam in the ocean? Okay, and also when, for example, when was the last time you what? If you say if you fell in love, who was he? Where did you meet him? And these kind of things also. So you have, again, to practice follow-up questions, interview one another, and then assign these with the notes. You can assign them to write a paragraph or some kind of composition, and then you decided, or maybe they can prepare a PowerPoint presentation too, and then you have images and those things. Okay, that is the idea of this exercise. Okay.
Okay, the next one is with your family.
Okay, we were talking about people as individuals, right? But also something important in everybody is family. Okay, family, and then you can talk about what are the talents in your family. When you practice, you know what you can practice with that. You can practice modal verbs, you can practice negative, affirmative sentences, and then say, what does your family enjoy doing together? Or what is the best way to punish a child? What are the things you like doing with your family, and what are the things you don't enjoy doing with your family? Okay, or things like that. Okay, you talk about family, and then you can relate those to each other's experience about family, because you can also ask them to think if there is a typical, let's say, Ecuadorian family or Peruvian family, or if there is a single parent and a child is a family, things like that. So you can go further with other things for them to talk and to express their ideas, give ideas, and talk about that part that is important. Okay, all these activities build up a sense of community with the students, because they get to know each other in different aspects, in the different areas, so they become friends.
Right.
Okay.
And I think we can take this idea, talking about family is good at the beginning of a course as another getting to know you activity. But you can model this for a lot of different topics. So I think the idea here is that you have a theme or a topic, and then you're giving your students lots of questions so that they're more motivated. They have a prompt that encourages them to write more.
Yeah, okay. One of the ideas also, I normally begin my classes with one or two questions. related to the topic we are discussing or dealing with in that period of time, right? So at the beginning they start talking about that and they get in the mood of the class and they connect with English. And also you can ask them while they are coming, you write questions on the board and then silently come and begin writing things about. So as a way to brainstorm things that you eventually will turn into some kind of assignment or a journal.
Yes, that's a good idea. Okay, the next one, I think this one is very interesting for students, both teenagers and university and adults, I think, offering advice.
Offering advice, okay. You have, everybody has a best friend. Some of us have more than one best friend. And so one of the roles that a best friend has is to offer advice sometimes. And then what you can do is to ask about problems. Students have problems of different kind of different kind of problems essentially. So they can write a little bit of thing about that kind of things that are bothering them, and then things like this. For example, I am 15 and I want to have some cosmetic surgery on my nose, or I am an only child and I like my parents to stop, or something about tattooing or piercing that is in fashion nowadays. Or dating. So these are good things for students to share. Essentially, they share ideas. In my experience, I've had students who have told me they don't want to talk to their friends, to the classmates, but they come to me or to the teacher to ask for some advice in a different matter, right? So and then you have to also model things, and then you can do something like that. At the beginning, it's a writing activity, but eventually it turned into something like kind of advisory.
Yeah. We have in the U.S., I don't know if we have this in South America, but in the U.S. in newspapers, there's often a column for advice where people write in with a problem, and then somebody on the newspaper staff gives them advice, and it's the same kind of idea.
I have a subscription to the Washington Post, so every day I read Ask Amy. That's why I can. So I usually read that column, and also Caroline Hicks in New York Times. So we are kind of related things, and then I think that is the idea. And then you can ask students to write or make up a problem. For students to give up.
And then they trade and they write the responses.
Okay, so that
And advice is great for practicing modal as well. Should, shouldn't, must, have to, could,
and then conditionals too, because if I were you, I would, or something. So it's a grammar point also that can be used while offering advice.
Right. So now we're going to talk about some ways you can use images to get your students to write more. So we have another poll. If the people in Lima can put the poll up. We have another question for the audience. Do you use pictures or images in your classes? Can you get that poll on the screen for everybody? Okay, there it is. So do you ever use pictures in your English classes, yes or no? So please take a moment, everybody, to answer that poll. We just want to get a sense of what the divide is in the audience. So we have 11 people answering. Where are the rest of you? Please, very, very quickly on your computer, if you can just answer, do you ever use pictures in your English classes? 10 more seconds.
Thank you for the 2 more.
I'm guessing that most people do, and it looks like that is the answers there. So, okay. So yeah, it looks like most people do use pictures occasionally. All the time, they're great. So most people use pictures. We're going to go ahead and stop this. Great. So we're going to go ahead and give you some more ideas about how you can use images or pictures.
Okay, then in my case, I take my own photo album to my class, and then I use my own ideas or my own images to talk about my family. So I model that activity, and then in this case, is my favorite family reunion. So in that picture, as you can see an old lady. She used to be my mom, and she passed away. So. And then now you have this, and then we have the last niece I have. So we talk about that thing. My family reunion we used to have in Quito is because of Holy Week, because of Easter, and then we, as a family, we get together in order to prepare fanesca. That is a typical dish in that period of the year, right? So we have that, and then everybody has to contribute with some grains and ingredients for the fanesca, and then we have that is the way we can use this image as taking into account your own experience and your own images, so you don't have to download things from internet.
Right.
You just use your own photo album or.
And students can use their family photos as a push into a writing activity to describe their family, talk about or write about a specific event that they did with their family, or write about a tradition that they do regularly in the past. So they can be practicing different.
Okay, and on also you can ask them to bring a small photo when they were little to see how they have changed.
And do a compare
contrast thing, and then or maybe you can mix them up, all of them, and then ask the classmates to check who.
Yes,
who is the
yes,
then that is an idea too.
That's great.
Okay, and then you have you can memories to say, look at your photo album and remember what games did you used to play, where did you used to spend your afternoons, who were your best friends, which event would you like to relive, and then you have these questions. There is always questions, but I think it's also another way to provide with input.
Yeah.
Because asking questions is one of the most difficult activities or things we do as learners, right? Asking questions is always going to be a problem. And then you have about sharing the special things, but they are going to, okay, sharing. The idea is that is the idea, sharing things, sharing experiences, sharing knowledge, sharing input, and okay, coming up with a bigger output for the whole class. Okay, and then in order to practice then you use what games you used to play, what did you used to spend your afternoons, what kind of games you used to have, or what things like that. You can ask students to come up with 10 questions, right? And then interview one another. But you can transform this into something even more challenging. You can ask your students to go and interview their parents. They are going to use Spanish, of course, but they come up with the ideas and with the answers from their parents, and then they compare their lifestyles, their own lifestyles and the one from their parents, and then they see, for example, the games that their people no longer practice today. They don't do that now. Like in Ecuador, we had like marros, that it was a kind of a baseball thing without a bat. So it's, for example, marros, and then you have, or there is one we used to call huevos de gato, for example, and this kind of, so they can compare both ways of having of entertainment.
Okay. So the next idea that you have is a compare and contrast activity using images. And I really like the next slide. It's a little bit slow.
Okay,
if you want to ask a question, they can write.
Yep, okay, thank you. Okay.
It's loading.
Maybe it's a little bit heavy.
There we go.
So you can compare them.
I really like this because they're obviously, these are two very famous, very different people, but they look so similar in this photo. So it offers a lot of opportunities for writing similarities and differences.
Okay, can you write some things on the chat box? Can you give us some ideas? What can you tell about them?
So if everybody, or if you can type just maybe one sentence to say how they're similar or how they're different, we can just see a few examples.
Nobody has
in the chat boxes. There's a delay. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously with an image, you would be looking at physical differences in appearance. But I think you can push your students. Janice says their hairstyles are very similar. Yeah. They're very similar. They both have messy hair. But they're from different backgrounds. So, oh, hi, Cesar. He's in Milagro. But if you push your students, you could get them to also dig into personality, background, profession. So not just what's visible in the picture, but comparing their lives outside of the picture as well.
Okay, and can use comparatives with S and S.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so they can grammar practice too. Okay.
We have one more. We'll just show very briefly another example, which is also funny. The slides are very slow, and I apologize for that. Oh yeah, you could also do a before and now, which kind of Edison was talking about that with the family questions, where if they interview their parents or their grandparents, they could do a comparison of what games did their parents play as children, what games did the student play as children. You can do a historical comparison as well.
Yes, sorry, the slideshow is kind of slow, but don't worry.
Edison and Stephanie, let us try to get the slides back.
Yeah.
So we're going to get them out of the screen now and pull them back in to see if that solves the issue, because we have them stuck also here in Lima.
Okay, so we can continue talking about this.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the next one.
Okay. So, or maybe you can show an image for like 10 seconds, for example, and then you flip it over, and the students have to remember how many things they remember about the picture.
Kind of like a memory.
Like a memory game, and then they do this with posters or things. You can you just flip the picture over, and then see how it works.
That would be really good as a partner activity as well, where so you briefly show an image, a picture for 10 seconds, and then you hide it, and the students have to list everything they remember. And then you can have them pair up, because together they'll have a fuller list.
Yeah,
and then they can work with their partner to write a description.
Yeah, then of course they'll have a lot more details.
Right, with their double memory.
With the double memory, then, and then they can do that. Picture of people at the park or a section in the city or something that is in.
Good idea.
That is good for them to practice. Like say there are.
Yeah.
What,
oh
where.
Yeah. That's really good for
so it's always
count and non-count.
Count and non-count colors.
Okay. Next one.
Okay. Also, and you can use images in order to brainstorm ideas about music, for example, about last concert they went to, what kind of music they like, if they have gone to a museum, if they love, what kind of dance they love to do, or things like that. And you can ask them to write about some important people in music, but also somebody who is not so well known. So it requires a little bit more effort, but eventually they can do that. Or you can also use humor and explain that there is different kinds of humor across cultures and explain some ideas about that thing. And they can come up, they can bring some jokes in Spanish to see if they can translate it, them into English and see if it works.
Yeah, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not at all.
Yeah.
Another idea with humor, you have a cartoon as one of the pictures. I've worked in classes where the teacher will have a cartoon, but they erased all of the words. So all of the dialogue is empty. And then the students have to write in what are the people saying in the cartoon, what is the caption for the cartoon. So that could be another prompt where you're providing an image for the students to write.
Okay, what I like to use is Kinos, the author of Mafalda, the ones without any text. They are good. So they are good for them to write sequences, to write stories, and they are very nice. It's very nice material for doing this. Also, one of the comics I use from the Washington Post is Baldo. This is a Latino boy in the United States, and so it is a good one because sometimes they mix. He has this Latino heritage, and he's living in the United States. So sometimes they mix. They have this Spanglish thing because she has an aunt, Aunt Carmen, and then she has some funny things to say too.
And that could bring up cultural topics.
Yes, that's good. That's one. And also talk about nature, your favorite place, or places you have been to,
or describing. Really good. That just said, I work with intermediate level students, so you may ask them to describe a day as if it was a person. Oh, that's very creative. Who would be Monday and why? And then they associate the way the person is with the day. That's a good idea.
Then, Baldo. B-A-L-D-O.
Okay. So next we're going to talk about some. Oh no, we have one more for images.
Okay, then we have different images about current events. You see there are things that could lead to say deeper discussion, like these people in Afghanistan or one of the Islamic countries, or these about children acting as soldiers. That is something that we know what it could be like because we haven't lived those things. Okay, the one about making deductions about the people who are going out the church, just getting married, and see if they were eventually lived happily ever after or something, things like that. And also you make deductions about the people in the picture at the bottom. So the little girl, who is she, and the lady there, and also about outing, going out, or things like that. But as a prompt for them to write.
And I think if you have a very thought-provoking picture, it can really push your students to say more about the picture, to write more about the picture. So that's great. All right, so now we're going to talk about ideas for getting your students to use more imagery or more poetry, kind of more creative writing, metaphors, similes, those sorts of activities. So the first one we have a poll.
Again.
So if we want to hear what the audience thinks again. So if Lima can put the poll up that we have with the next slide. Oh, there seems to be a delay. Okay. So we have a poll, if Lima can put that up. Which provokes more thought, a window or a door? A window or a door? Which provokes more thought? Which makes you think more? So if everybody can please take a minute to answer this question. It's a little philosophical, a little creative. But what do you think? Which provokes more thought, a window or a door? There's 9 people answering. Where are the rest of you? There are 32 of you out there.
We're waiting.
Type in your answers.
They went for coffee or something.
You're taking a coffee break. A little siesta. Okay, we have 11 people answering. Could we have some more answers? Which provokes more thought, a window or a door? Oh, people are explaining it. You can imagine anything behind it. A door. So a few more people. Can you please answer the poll quickly? Which provokes? A short video without sound and you write the dialogue. That's a good way to use video for writing. That's a good idea. Okay. So most people are answering a window. That's kind of interesting. And a window makes them think more than a door does. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop the poll. Okay. Okay. So the idea with this activity, can you explain the idea?
Okay, the idea is for them to imagine things, to talk, to take a position on different things. Okay, and you have these ideas which provokes more thought, a window or a door, or which takes more space, a frown or a smile. Why? And they have to explain why, and which costs more, popularity or a loneliness, or which is heavier, a mountain or a mistake. Students normally or which is weaker, a spider web or a promise. My students have chosen number. They are very.
So they can choose one question. They don't have to answer
all of them.
questions.
No,
okay.
They just choose 1 or 2 questions, and then they have to explain and give reasons why they choose those.
Right.
For many people, making a mistake is a huge thing. So they have to explain why they think, and they talk about mistakes, about regrets, about sometimes about wishes, and then we have this let's say hidden grammar in the composition or in the topic they are discussing.
And obviously, these questions don't have a right answer or a wrong answer. It's the person's own beliefs or opinions.
Yeah.
But you're getting them to then explain, why do you think a window provokes more thought? Explain why.
Yeah, that is the idea. And because when you write and when you correct writing, everybody has his or her own rubrics. But eventually you don't grade opinions, but you grade something, some of the mechanic things.
Angie in Piura is asking, where can you find these kind of questions?
Okay, no, I was thinking it was in
your head.
my head. No, it was in an old book like I read like 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was, and then I was thinking, I guess I have lots of books at home, but I can't remember where.
But I guess it was a long time ago.
Yes.
I think another idea, if you Google like conversation starters or conversation questions, you can get websites where there's a lot of lists of easy kind of choice questions. So if you Google conversation questions, conversation starters, that could get you to some of
discussion questions.
Discussion questions.
They have
You'll
lots
get
of ideas,
and then you can start developing your own as well.
Yeah, many of these ideas were some things I have learned from my own students, from other colleagues, and from books I've read, and then I say I could use this. It's part of the.
And you start gathering more and more
things. Yeah.
And Ray, thanks Ray. Ray posted a website that has questions.
Yep.
itussli.org/questions.
Yes. I usually use that website also.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have this, how would you complete this poem? Okay, you can ask them to write 1 word to complete those lines, okay? Those verses, do more than belong, and then the students, do more than care, do more than believe, do more than be fair, do more than forgive, do more than dream. And then you have some
So we have an example of a completed poem coming up. So you can get an idea of how this is using some creativity in a poem, in a poetry form.
So we've got do more than belong, participate, do more than care, help, do more than believe, practice, do more than be fair, be kind, do more than forgive, forget, and do more than dream, work.
Mm-hmm. And so you could use this as a model and come up with other phrases where the students then kind of complete the poem with their beliefs, their ideas. And this you could use with lower level students too, because it's just words. Although for critical thinking, it's actually at a higher level of critical thinking in terms of connecting ideas.
And also you can use, for higher levels, you can use if I were poem. So if I were blah, 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 and then you give an example, and then they have to do their own poem using this form, right? If I were.
Okay. Great. Good idea. The next one. I really like the next one because it's very creative in terms of connecting ideas, I think.
Crossover, right. Again, I don't remember where I got this thing from. But I think
you're not citing your sources.
No. I wish I could. No, because I have some sources at the end of the word.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know. Okay, when they say, what is the sound of word? A word, right? What is the flavor of?
You can also write the last 3 or 4 lines of a conversation and tell that student to write how they think the conversation started. Okay. That's a good idea too. Thank you.
Then you can. Okay, then you have those. What is the sound of? What is the flavor of happiness? What is the texture of fear? What is the smell of laughter? And what is the fabric of wishes? So you do these things, or you can also make it like a teacher that taught when I was a student. He said, "What does love taste like?" Or what does love smell like?
Right.
And then you make them write about those things. It's just the same thing, connecting things with the senses.
Right.
And then.
But connecting senses with things, normally when you talk about flavors, you're talking about food or drinks. You're not talking about happiness.
Yeah.
So what is the flavor of happiness? That really makes the student think about.
Yeah.
What senses am I using? What makes me happy? How can I explain this connection? So you already mentioned Finesca. I might say for me, the flavor of happiness is Finesca. But that means it's my favorite Ecuadorian food.
Mine.
But behind that, I can explain that Finesca it's not just the food, but it's the season. It symbolizes Ecuador. It symbolizes
the people who are gathering to make it.
Exactly.
So it's not only that.
There's more behind it, and you could really push your students to write more to explain.
The symbolism of this soup, for example.
What does it mean?
Yeah, the fish is Christ, and the grains are the apostles. And everything. Okay, so that is the idea, to go a little beyond what is expected.
And it's using this imagery and kind of poetic writing, creative writing to connect those ideas.
Okay, they have said also they use the to complete the thoughts by Mother Teresa. Okay.
Good. Yeah. So some people are putting other websites that are useful for poems. That's great. Great resources. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Also, with the lower levels, we normally ask them to write something, and everything for them is good, interesting, or nice. So these adjectives are too vague.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't say much. So the idea is these activities no more boring. They're adjectives. So you write about a possession of yours or a place you find unique or you find interesting. No. Tell why. But you do not have to use the adjectives interesting, good, or nice.
Or they're forbidden to use those.
They are forbidden to use those.
Okay. And that could be something after they've written it where they work with a partner to maybe identify the boring adjectives and replace them with something more meaningful. So it could also go from a writing activity to a speaking activity and a peer review activity to improve their word choice and vocabulary.
Yeah, to make their lexicon a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, then they have to, at the beginning, they have to recognize what an adjective is.
Right.
To notice what an adjective is, and then they have to work with it.
And I would say you could even use this with some beginner level students because they're all going to know the word good, but you can start supplying them with other synonyms for good so that they start expanding their vocabulary, even at a beginner level.
Monica, all these activities are to be used in class. I have used all these things for 15 years in university, and I've been a teacher for 25 years, and many of them have worked. These are the things that work, and they have worked well. Yeah. So that is good.
Although I think many of these could be adapted to be homework assignments as well. So they could be in class, they could be out of class.
And we have to remember that writing is not a one-step thing. They have to have some drafting, so then have some revision, and then they have to do the final product.
Right. Okay. So the next idea we have is another one that's good for beginner or lower level students. I'm waiting for the slide again. And again, this is using adjectives, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah. Also, you can say no more boring verbs.
Oh, sure.
That's an activity I found in the internet. No more boring verbs, and then they don't have to use play, go, or have.
Right. And they have to replace it with more meaningful words.
Okay, and then you have this high five activity. So you have to choose 5 people you know well, and describe each one using 5 words. And you can make this with longer adjectives or only use 1-syllable words only. So it is, at the beginning we were trying to expand their knowledge, but now we can be trying to summarize, to put everything in a nutshell, let's say. Sure. Yeah, then we can use those 5 words to describe a person. Right. And another variation is what is called, it uses the poetry tool, is the 6-word memoir.
Oh yeah.
And then you describe yourself in 6 words. For example, in my case, I say 3 children, 1 love, 2 jobs.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So 6 words.
And that summarizes your life.
My life, and then you can use that. It's trying to make things short on that you're saying a lot.
Right.
Because otherwise you have to explain orally or something.
Right. And I would say you can leave these activities as they are for very, very low-level students.
Yeah.
If you have intermediate or advanced students, you would start with this activity, but then increase it, have them now compare these 5 people and write a paragraph comparing them, or maybe talk with a partner to do speaking activities and explain more about their list. So you could use this as an introductory activity into more challenging
things,
or leave it alone for very, very beginners.
What about upper levels? Okay, the 6, or you can make a note you can write a note to the graveyard, because I remember when I was a child, we didn't have a park in my neighborhood, so we used to go to play at the graveyard.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Guapulo. That is, this only has one long street and doesn't have any park.
Right.
So we used to play at only place available.
Okay.
So
but then using like quotations or things that are inscribed on a tombstone as a prompt for writing. That's another creative idea. Okay, the next slide we have, we'd like people to write some comments as the slide comes up. Oh yeah, Monica said, what about upper levels? For this high 5 activity, I would start by having them make these lists of words, and then have them turn those lists into a paragraph or maybe an essay where they're comparing and contrasting the people on their list. So that could be good practice for a compare-contrast essay. It could be a good practice for like descriptor, and where they're practicing However, similarly, on the other hand, practicing those linking words.
Okay, so here you have this image too again. Then can you write in the chat box where it comes from?
Yeah. So
what
please,
it is?
Obviously this is an oyster with a pearl inside. So we would like you from Ecuador. Oh, okay, thanks. We would like you to type where does this come from? Where do pearls come from?
Where do pearls come
Yeah, where do pearls come from? So if you could just type a quick answer in your chat box. They come from sand.
Sand,
yes,
yeah.
That's correct, right?
Yes, or any kind of
sand in Ecuador or sand in other countries as well.
Or a pizza or something.
Other ideas that you have out there? Where do pearls come from? From a sandy galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, coming poetic. Okay, then.
Okay, so
So this, okay, so students have to read this little paragraph. And a pearl is a beautiful thing that is produced by an injured life. It is a tear that results from the injury of the oyster. Coming to think about it, if we had not been wounded, if we had not been injured, then we would not produce the pearl.
Okay, I like this summary because like who was it? Janice said pearls start with sand, which gets into the oyster and aggravates the oyster. It's an injury.
Really,
yeah. Or it's hurting the oyster, and so to protect itself, it forms this pearl around the sand,
layers,
these layers, which is protecting the oyster from this outside thing that's hurting them. But then, of course, pearls are very beautiful. They're very valuable. We as humans use them as like a precious stone almost. But it's originating as an injury.
Yeah.
Something that hurts.
That's something hurt the oyster, and also people can begin talking about themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is the idea. Also, that students know themselves more than anything else, more than anyone else. Mm-hmm. So they are going to talk about those things. But I think it was for upper levels, and maybe after a long time has gone through it in the classroom, so they are confident enough to share those kind of things with you or their classmates.
Right. I would say this is more appropriate for intermediate or advanced level students because this is requiring more language, and it's deep. It's deeper thinking, right? It's more critical thinking to use this metaphor basically. But I think this is a nice prompt where you could start as a discussion activity about the pearl. And then you give the students an assignment where they have to write about something in their life that was maybe very difficult or that hurt them.
Okay,
but then later they developed from it. They benefited from it.
Also, if they have overcame obstacles or things like that. Okay, that is also, and also for wishes, regrets again.
And it's a great way to introduce metaphors and similes and getting the students to use this imagery in their writing.
Yeah, figurative language.
That's a great idea. Okay. Next, we have a picture of a tamarind.
Tamarind. What does it taste like?
What does a tamarind taste like?
Yeah, it is. It is a bitter
kind of bitter, yeah. Or tart.
Yeah. Then you have that, and then that is something I do in my classes. Also, I bring tamarind pieces of candy for each student, and then I give them the way they taste it, and then this is like as a brainstorming thing, as a prompt actually, and say, can you name or say something that is also bittersweet, something in your life that has had this kind of a mix of flavors. So, and then they begin talking about those things that
and their
personal experiences. Essentially, there's a workshop is about getting students to write about themselves using their senses and their feelings.
Right. And I love that this is a prompt where you're bringing in a little bit of realia because you're actually giving your students some tamarind flavored candy to taste and getting them to really focus on their senses. What are they tasting? How do you describe this? and then expanding it to, now use this as a metaphor.
As a metaphor for your life, or a turning point in your life, or something.
Exactly.
I think that is the idea. Oh, yeah.
But it's really grabbing the student's attention.
Yeah,
at the
at the beginning.
They're actually tasting bittersweet flavors.
Yeah.
So then
and it could be for them, if sometimes they don't know they were bittersweet.
Exactly.
So you have to provide it. It is bittersweet. What is it? They come up with sour and something.
Right.
They say, no,
but right, they need the more exact.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So we have useful websites that you've shared with the audience, and I believe they wrote earlier that everybody can download this PowerPoint from a Google website, I believe. Can you put that website up again? So that you don't have to sit there and try to write down all of these long links, but you can go to the website and get this PowerPoint if you want to remember some of the ideas, and if you want to get these websites that might help you with more writing ideas.
Okay, and what I do, because I have a question about vocabulary, is that normally I pre-teach vocabulary.
What was the question?
It was we provide with the vocabulary before they begin writing.
Okay, for the Tamarin or for the Pearl.
Okay. Normally I pre-teach for every single case. I normally pre-teach. I do some math activities or before assigning or beginning with the writing activity itself. So that it's
okay. So I believe they posted the website where you can see. Can everybody see? Okay. So I think everybody can see the website. If you want to download, can you just post the website and not all of the introductory? That might be easy. Okay. So we're going to show you the website where you can get the PowerPoint. There. Okay. So if you go to this website, you can get the PowerPoint to collect all of Edison's wonderful ideas that he shared with us, and the websites where you can get even more ideas. And additionally, you can email Edison, who created all of these ideas, or you can email me if you have more questions about writing. But we're just about out of time, so we just want to say that we hope you got some new ideas for getting your students to write more, encouraging your students to write more and produce more output. And I also want to say thank you to Edison.
No, thank you
for
the opportunity
to
share.
Yeah, I've worked with Edison on a few other projects, and I know he's got some really great ideas. So I'm very happy to invite him to share some of those ideas with all of you.